9 spine-chilling encounters with cursed feral people in mysterious Appalachia revealed. The stories seep through the cracks of ashwood like mist curling through trees. They whisper at night and scream through the fog when the sun sets behind the Appalachian hills. 9 encounters, each more haunting than the last, featuring cursed feral people who roam the woods at night, lost to the world as we know it. Amy felt the weight of those tales as she clutched her steering wheel, shaking off the chill creeping up her spine. The headlights barely cut through the encroaching shadows. Every twist of the winding road seemed to grasp at her with clawed fingers. But she was too tired to give in to fear. She parked in front of the rickety house she called home, the old wood creaking a familiar tune. Tyler's voice broke the silence like a scream. "Mom, I saw something." His face was pale as he glanced toward the woods, eyes wide in disbelief. It was watching us, right from the trees. Amy swallowed hard, heart quickening. Mr. Graves, the old man down the way, often grumbled about the cursed folk in the forest. "Best keep your kids close once the sun goes down. They tend to wander," he'd say, eyes hollow, as if harboring his own dark secrets. She dismissed his creepy stories and tucked her kids into bed. But the night pressed hard against the windows, making her skin crawl. While she tried to sleep, thoughts raced. Unease clawed at her, making every shadow loom larger, every sound amplified. She could almost feel it, the gaze of something lurking just beyond the fragile walls of her home, waiting for the right moment to slip inside. Days later, they ventured into those very woods for a picnic, unaware of the danger that lay beneath the surface. Laughter filled the air until it didn't. "Where's Lily?" Panic rippled through her as she glanced around. Her baby girl had vanished into the dense greenery so fast it felt unnatural, like a bad dream wrapping around reality. Amy's voice echoed in desperation as she stumbled through the undergrowth, calling her name, the once inviting woods turning sinister. Every rustle made her heart pound harder, every snap of a twig made her breath hitch. Then she found it, an old campsite adorned with crude carvings, remnants of lives once lived, trapped in the pages of her town's history. The chilling realization hit her: children had gone missing here before, many families, lost and never found. As shadows began to swirl and the sun dipped lower, she spun around, heart racing when Mr. Graves emerged into view, his leer both unsettling and familiar. "They're closer than you think, Amy," he warned, his grin more of a smirk. "These woods reveal your fears, twisting the line between those you trust and those you should fear." A cold sweat trickled down her back as she sought comfort in denial. Was it the feral people lurking beyond the trees? Or was it something else entirely, something more insidious, hidden in plain sight? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emily stood frozen, breath visible in the crisp air, feeling the palpable dread envelop her. Just as she was about to confront Graves, a shiver raced through the underbrush. A movement quick, almost fleet-footed through the trees. Her breath caught in her throat, heart hammering like a runaway train. Steel-gray eyes darted in the dim light. Was it a figment of her fear or a true horror lurking just outside view? As silence wrapped itself around her, the echoes of the forest sang a haunting melody that both beckoned and warned. Would she step further into the darkness to rescue her child? Or had she unwittingly stepped into a truth buried long ago, where nightmares began to blend with stark reality? The underbrush rustled again, sharper this time, more frantic. Amy's instincts kicked in, adrenaline surging as she strained her ears against the oppressive quiet of the forest. The air felt alive, crackling with an energy she couldn't quite grasp. Something was out there, and it wasn't friendly. "Lily!" She called again, her voice echoing off the trees, swallowed by the looming darkness. She fought the impulse to turn and run back to the safety of her home. The very thought of leaving Lily behind sent icy fingers crawling up her spine. With each heartbeat, a mantra repeated in her mind, "Find your daughter." As she stepped deeper into the woods, the shadows loomed larger. Tall trees stretched up like bony fingers, clawing at the sky. Their gnarled branches formed grotesque shapes, twisting into nightmares. A chill swept through the air, carrying faint whispers that seemed to taunt her. "Mommy," a voice barely registered at first. Her heart fought to slow. Was that Mommy? The voice was clearer this time, colored with a sense of urgency. Amy's legs moved before she could think. She sprinted toward the sound, branches scratching at her arms as if trying to pull her back. "Lily! I'm coming!" She followed the cries, pushing aside thick foliage that closed in around her like a cage. Fear skittered down her spine as the forest seemed to close ranks, each snap of twigs beneath her feet a reminder of the stories she had heard. "Mommy!" The sound was closer. Warmth flooded her chest, hope. But it was quickly doused by the sinister answer lurking beneath the surface of her relief. The tales of those cursed feral people haunted her thoughts again. What had happened to the whispers of children gone missing? Then she spotted a flash of white woven among the shadows, a dress, Lily's dress. "Lily!" She shouted, moving straight toward it, but as she approached, her heart sank. It was caught on a jagged bit of a tree, fluttering like a ghost in the wind, the flickering remains of hope twisted into despair. "Lily! Where are you?" Panic clawed at her throat as she tugged at the fabric, dread pooling heavy in her stomach. That's when she heard it, the laughter. It echoed like music through the woods, sing-song, sweet yet laced with something wicked. A gathering of voices, maybe more than just her daughter. Chills trickled down her spine, leaving a hollow sensation in their wake. Just as she began to retreat, stepping back toward the safety of the path, the laughter stopped. Silence fell, thick and suffocating. Trembling, she turned, desperate to escape this nightmare. But in the silence, footsteps approached. A figure merged from the shadows, wobbling like a marionette. "Help us, Mommy," it whispered, voice honey-soft and sinister. Her heart pounded, breath quickening as she squinted against the creeping dusk. It wasn't Lily. It was a girl, no more than 7 or 8, hair tangled and wild, skin smeared with dirt. And behind her, eyes glinted in the fading light. Faces emerged from the trees, watching, waiting, their expressions twisted and blank. "What do you want?" Amy's voice trembled as fear gnawed relentlessly at her gut. "Where's my daughter?" The girl stepped closer, almost too eager, her smile stretching wider. "Join us." The others echoed too, their voices overlapping and twisting into a terrifying cacophony, inviting and threatening all at once. Amy stumbled back, heart racing as the weight of their collective gaze pressed down like a vice. "No." She turned to run. But the laughter erupted again, and she felt it wrapping around her limbs, pulling her back toward the shadowed depths of the woods. With every step she took, she realized she was being hunted, not just by the forest, but by something far more sinister, lurking in the darkness, eager for a new victim. As she glanced over her shoulder, the girl pointed, her eyes alight with a manic gleam. "She's coming back, Mommy. Soon." Racing thoughts collided like thunder in her mind as she fought to grasp what lay before her. The woods swallowed her cries as she sprinted deeper into the dark, desperate to find Lily before something else found her first. And in the stifling air thick with foreboding, she realized with dread, this was only the beginning. What awaited was a chase to the very end, where light battled shadows, and the truth of the cursed woods hung just within reach. But would she survive long enough to uncover it? Somewhere deeper in the heart of the forest, a voice lingered, "Welcome home." The air was heavy, thick with the lingering scent of damp earth and decay. Amy pushed ahead, her breath quickening with every frantic step. Shadows morphed around her, slipping in and out of sight like specters dancing in the corners of her vision. Her heart thundered in her chest, fueling the desperate need to find Lily. "Mommy!" The voice echoed again, distant yet sharp. It stirred something primal inside her, an instinct she couldn't ignore. But with each call, another layer of dread settled over her like a shroud. The forest felt alive, eyes lurking in every shadow, and the laughter of the children resonated a haunting melody that chilled her to the bone. "Stay focused," she whispered to herself, fighting the urge to succumb to the frantic panic clawing at her. She pressed onward, weaving between trees with gnarled branches that seemed to reach out for her, threatening to ensnare her in their grip. Suddenly, a sharp scream shattered the stillness, piercing through the laughter. It was unmistakable Lily. "Lily!" Amy screamed back, her voice breaking. The laughter morphed into sinister chortles, spurring her on. Her feet pounded the forest floor, driven by a terror that was almost electric. An undeniable force pushed her deeper into the twisting maze of trees. Each heartbeat seemed to echo louder, pounding in her ears. As she rounded a bend, a clearing opened up before her. Willow branches drooped like curtains, shrouding the space in shadows. But there, barely visible in the starlit gloom, was a crumpled figure on the ground. Lily! Relief surged, but it was quickly tempered by a cold wave of fear. She raced toward the small body, limbs trembling, only to freeze when she was engulfed in the laughter again. They were all around her now, those haunted children, their faces slick with mud and delight. "She is here. She is close." The girl from before grinned wide, her teeth oddly sharp against her dirt-smeared face. Fear coiled tightly in Amy's throat. "Where is my daughter?" she demanded, making strides to Lily's limp form. "Stay and play. Stay forever," they chanted, their voices rising in pitch with every step she took. The grotesque harmony wrapped around her like a noose. Amy dropped to her knees, cradling Lily. The girl's eyes fluttered open, filled with confusion and pain. "Mommy?" she whimpered, reaching for Amy's face, but the girl beside her leaned closer, whispering, "Join us, Lily, no." The word was a primal shout, fueled by a mother's instinct. She hauled Lily onto her shoulder, love and fear pushing her forward. She whirled to face the children, who had circled around them, closing in like a tightening net. With every turn, shadows shifted, and she could hear the whispers through the branches. "Don't leave, please stay." It was no longer just laughter. It was a groan, a desperate plea that slithered through her mind, begging her to surrender. "Don't listen to them, baby, don't listen," Amy whispered fiercely as she tried to break away from the encroaching throng, but the more she urged Lily, the more the children shrieked wild, discordant cries that echoed through the trees, shaking the very ground beneath her. It was a cacophony, rising like smoke swirling and choking in the night. Instinct took over, and she pushed through the throng, stumbling toward the tree-line, back to the path from which she had come. But a spectral figure emerged from the shadows beyond, tall and thin, with hollow eyes that swallowed the light. "Welcome home," it rasped, a voice intermingled with echoes of 1,000 lost souls, ready to face whatever horror awaited her. Amy turned back, panic igniting anew. "What do you want?" she screamed, desperate for answers amidst the chaos swirling around her. But that only seemed to heighten their manic delight, their laughter ringing out as one. And then, a chorus of voices melded into a single chant, join us," with the overwhelming sensation of being both hunted and watched. She realized then, all her attempts to escape this evil were in vain. Not only was she fighting to save Lily, but something deep in these cursed woods was fighting to claim them both. The darkness all around pulsed with a life of its own. The children surged closer, faces twisted in mirth that concealed everything sinister, while the haunting whisper echoed louder in her mind, "You can't run forever." With every ounce of strength, Amy dashed into the night, but a weight pressed upon her heart. The end was near, and dread hung on the breeze like the scent of rain before a storm. What price would she have to pay to keep her daughter safe? As shadows danced and whispered, it became painfully clear, the forest was hungry for souls. And it wouldn't be satisfied until it had its fill. Branches snapped underfoot as Amy pushed deeper into the forest, her stride a frantic stumble, Lily's weight pulling hard against her. The laughing children flanked them, their giggles echoing eerily, a cacophony that seeped into her bones. "Look at them run!" One squealed, darting just out of reach, eyes glinting with unholy glee. "Don't look back," Amy urged herself. She could feel the pull, an almost magnetic tug towards the shadows that promised sanctuary, but she knew better. Her mind raced. What would happen if she turned? "Join us," the children chanted again, their voices a haunting lullaby entwined with the heavy scent of loamy earth. "Please don't listen, Lily," Amy pleaded, glancing at her daughter. The girl's eyes were wide and terrified, yet there was something else, something almost curious, as if the enchantment of the woods tugged at her innocence. A shiver coursed through Amy. She needed to reach the edge of the trees before whatever darkness was lurking took hold of them both. Ahead, the trees began to thin out, promising the light of the moon and the path they had initially wandered. She pushed forward, breath hitching as she felt the weight of many eyes upon her. The children had fallen silent, their presence oppressive like a storm cloud about to burst. "Why are you leaving?" One voice, sweeter than the rest, drifted through the air like a wisp of smoke. "We just want to play." Amy spat, rage igniting in her chest. This isn't a game. But then just as she caught a glimpse of moonlight filtering through the branches, an icy hand gripped her ankle. She yelped, catching a flash of mud-streaked fingers before a wild child burst into the clearing, pulling her to the ground. "Don't go!" it screamed. The others joined, their voices rising, a shrieking chorus that filled her ears with panic. Lily whimpered beneath her, instinctively recoiling from the children who had become a horde, closing in fast. With her heart racing, Amy kicked free, scrambling to her feet. The clearing was nearly there, the path just beyond the final line of trees. If she could only reach it. "Mommy, help!" Lily's scream snapped something deep within her. Amy turned, brushing aside the children like leaves, forcing them back with sheer adrenaline. "Stay behind me, baby!" she shouted, looking into those mismatched, mud-streaked faces now twisted with malicious playfulness. The laughter resumed, high-pitched and frenzied as they lunged towards Lily, limbs outstretched. Amy surged forward, mindlessly running, her only thought to shield her child. A streak of energy propelled her forward, both fear and love igniting a fierce flame within. Just a few more steps, they were almost there when the sunken figure from earlier emerged from the darkness again, its presence like a shadow that swallowed light. "Leave now and you'll never see her again," it rasped, voice gravelly and dripping with malice. "No!" Amy screamed, feeling her resolve weaken. It stepped closer, ethereal, almost merging with the night. "Join us," it whispered, almost coaxing. Suddenly, her vision darkened. The forest swayed around her, and the laughter grew fainter, yet a new song began to unfurl, soft and sweet, promising safety and comfort if only she would surrender. "Lily!" she cried, but the desperate sound broke as branches reached for her and shadows entwined around her feet, holding her still. "Please don't leave me." Lily's voice was fragile, a break in the growing chaos. "No." Amy shook her head violently. With every ounce of strength, she fought the oppressive weight, the seductive call of the darkness. In that moment, the shadows vibrated, and all at once, the children erupted into a furious frenzy, a wild, twisted dance that made the very ground tremble beneath their feet. Caught in the whirlwind of laughter and terror, Amy's heart raced with the weight of choice. Would she turn back? Could she abandon the way to freedom? "You can't escape," the murmur rose around them, thick and suffocating. And then, just as hope dimmed, a glimmer of light caught her eye, a reflection breaking through the dark. With renewed desperation, she lunged towards it, but the children clawed at her, shrieking in rage. "Join us," they chanted, voices intertwining in a maddening rhythm. And in that split second, Amy felt the deep-rooted dread of revelation. The forest wasn't just hungry, it was waiting. She needed to decide. Would she fight, or would she succumb? With a surge of desperation, she screamed into the dark, her voice booming against the silence, "I will do anything to save my daughter." But deep within those twisted hearts, something stirred, a commitment made long ago that surged to the surface. The edge danced just out of grasp, the sinister promise of the woods lingering like a noose around her neck. The forest had made its choice, but what would hers be? In the heart of the night, an unseen terror loomed. Would she and Lily make it out, and at what cost? The darkness pressed in, an almost tangible shroud that swallowed sound and light. Amy's heart thundered in her chest, drowning out the laughter echoing from behind. She pushed forward, every fiber of her being urging her to escape, to reach the moonlit path beyond the trees. "Mommy!" Lily's voice, fraught with fear, turned Amy's blood to ice. She glanced back, spotting a flash of mud-streaked faces, gaping mouths twisted in manic smiles. The children weren't just playing anymore, they were a storm, rage and desperation mixing with gleeful malice. "Stay close!" she shouted, her voice trembling but firm. The phrasing sounded unreal, as if the forest itself might swallow her words whole. The edges of her vision blurred as shadows twined around the trees, writhing like snakes, seeking to ensnare her. "Join us," the wild children whispered, their voices like the rustle of autumn leaves. Each time the words slipped from their lips, it felt like icy fingers danced along her spine. The moonlight flickered just ahead, a beacon of hope or another cruel illusion. Amy rushed forward, her mind seizing on the thought, if they could reach the clearing, she could find a way back to the road. But the forest had other plans. A figure emerged, stepping into the silver beam above them, a woman, or what once had been one. Her hair hung in tangled strands, eyes glinting feral and wild. "You shouldn't have come here," she hissed, mouth twisted into a grotesque grin. A surge of terror washed over Amy. "I'm not here to stay," she screamed, but the words felt weak, as if they were nothing but lost echoes. The ground quaked beneath her feet as the children closed in, their eyes shining with darkness. "Join us!" They encircled her like a storm, chanting now with an urgency that drove the fear deeper. The sound roared in her ears, mixing with Lily's helpless sobs. "Fight it, Lily!" Amy pleaded, the desperation clawing at her throat. "Hold my hand!" But the little girl stood frozen, entranced by the spectacle. "It's so much fun here, Mommy, no!" The word exploded from Amy's chest. She lunged toward her daughter, desperation fueling her every move. The children surged around her like shadows, arms reaching, fingers grasping. Suddenly, the woman stepped closer, the moonlight illuminating a leathery, cracked face. "You have felt their pull, the warmth of their joy." Joy. It sickened her. This isn't joy. It's a trap. "We play forever here," the children chorused, their voices rising in a chilling harmony. Amy's breath quickened. The words felt like a spell, tightening their grip on her mind. She wanted to scream, to tear free, but she felt herself slipping, drowning beneath the weight of their gaze. "Join us," the woman pressed, her eyes alight with dark hunger. "Leave the world behind. Isn't it lonely out there?" In a moment of clarity, Amy seized the last glimmer of lucidity in her heart, aware that every second bent toward the inevitable. She shouted, "Lily! Fight them! Fight for us!" Just then, a cold gust swept through the clearing, breaking the fevered chant. It felt alive, a fierce wind howling against the forest. The children's faces flickered momentarily, a tapestry of innocence and horror, and in that fleeting moment, Amy saw their true selves. Children lost, trapped in this ravine of despair. "What are you?" she pleaded as they swirled closer, anticipation throbbing in the air. "You're not just kids. This is the forest," the woman hissed. "We are the forest. Mommy." I don't want to play," Lily stammered, stepping backward, tears streaming down her cheeks. "No more games!" Amy shouted, reaching for her, the distance between them stretching like a chasm. "Fight it!" The shadows shrieked at her, enraged. The children's laughter twisted into screams, reverberating off the trees. "Join us!" they cried again, louder than ever. The ground beneath them cracked, swallowing the light. All at once, the chant crescendoed, and in that suffocating blur, Amy knew she had to make a choice: would she bring her daughter back into the glimmering light, or would she succumb to whatever unholy pact the forest demanded? With her heart pounding like a war drum, she clutched her daughter's small hand. "I will save you, Lily. However this ends, we do it together." But the forest raged, its roots clawing for both of them. What would her next move be? Would love triumph over the sinister song of the shadows? The forest's heart pulsed ominously as night pressed in, the air thick with uncertainty and dread. Would they escape its grasp or join the wretched chorus forever? The air grew thick with despair, and the darkness coiled around them like a tightening vice. Amy's heart raced, each beat echoing the urgency of her situation. She squeezed Lily's hand tighter, but the child felt like a fragile porcelain doll in her grip, one that might shatter if she tightened her hold too much. "Mommy, I don't want to join them," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. "No. We're not joining anyone." Amy's tone was fierce as she fought against the suffocating grip of the shadows. The chant from the children ricocheted in her brain, each syllable like a needle pricking at her resolve. The woman stepped closer, her presence looming like a dark shadow draped in malice. "You'll regret that choice, dear. This forest has ways of making you want what you can't have." The older figure's smile twisted with malevolence, as if savoring the fear that hung in the air. Amy could feel cold sweat trickling down the nape of her neck. She had to act, and fast. She turned to Lily, searching the little girl's eyes for a sign of understanding. "Look at me, sweetheart. Just keep your eyes on me. We're getting out of here, I promise." But the world around them trembled with a foreboding life of its own. The trees swayed violently despite the stillness of the air, branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The other children leaned closer, their mud-streaked faces now grotesque caricatures of innocence molded by the anguish that bound them to the forest. "Mommy, they say they're my friends." Lily's voice trailed off, tinged with a fatal allure. "Friends?" Amy fought to rein in her rising panic. "They're tricking you. You're not alone, I'm right here." She took a shaky step back as the ground beneath her trembled, roots snaking toward her like angry serpents. The whispering grew louder, an insatiable chorus hungry for her despair. "Join us forever. Leave us alone." Amy shrieked, her voice battling against the chaos. "Get away." Desperation drove her forward, to tear Lily free from this nightmare. But just as she began to break the children's circle, a rush of air swept past her, freezing her in place as if she were caught in the very grip of something unnatural. Memories flickered in her mind, fragments of their home, the warmth of sunlight, the laughter of Lily without the chains of the forest. "We'll find it again," she screamed, her voice nearly drowned out by the moans from the gathering shadows. The children's eyes glistened with something far darker than despair. They were alive, twisted with a joy that no longer belonged to the living. "Join us forever," they declared again, their small hands reaching out as if begging for acceptance. A pulse of energy surged around Amy. With a singular determination, she stepped forward, eyes locked on Lily. "We don't need them. You have me. You are loved." But the words began to lose their potency. The woman laughed, a sound that resonated deep within the earth. "Love is irrelevant here," she snarled. "This is our domain." Suddenly, Lily screamed, a bone-chilling sound that echoed like a sonic wave through the trees, pulling Amy's heart into the depths of her chest. "Mommy! Help!" The ground shattered, sending vibrations coursing through the air as a fissure opened beneath Lily's feet. Amy's world spun as she lunged, desperate to grab her daughter. But the very roots of the forest reached up like claws, pulling Lily down into the abyss. "No! Lily!" Terror gripped Amy like frost. She dove forward, grasping at empty air, reaching for the fading silhouette of her daughter, the shadows swirling against her. "Join us!" The children shrieked, but their call faded amidst the roar of the trees. The chasm yawned wide, and as time stretched into an agonizing arc, Amy felt the fibers that tethered them to this reality frame. Would she dive into the dark and face whatever lay ahead, or risk losing Lily forever? Just then, a crack of thunder shook the forest, and the moonlight flickered ominously. The trees shivered as if the earth itself was rebelling against the malevolence that had ensnared them, standing at the edge of that chilling void. Amy realized she was faced with the ultimate choice: plunge into the darkness to save her daughter or turn and run. But could she abandon the one she loved? The shadows whispered promises as they clawed at her desperation, and her heart raced again, pounding a rhythm of defiance. Could bravery outweigh the encroaching horror? Then, a horrible thought struck her: if they grappled with the forest's magic, would she lose herself as well? In the depths of fear and uncertainty, the night pressed down like an iron curtain. What would she choose? What would be the cost? The forest waited, hungry for her answer, as night deepened into terrifying silence, punctuated by the echoing scream of her daughter's name. Amy felt a cold wind whip around her, prompting her to shiver despite the heat of panic coursing through her veins. The hair stood on the back of her neck as she faced the jagged edge of the chasm. Its depths seemed to beckon with a sinister whisper, promising both salvation and destruction. For a moment, she stood paralyzed, uncertainty gripping her heart tighter than the forest's claws. Lily. Her voice echoed, but it felt trapped, ensnared in the tremors of despair. The haunting faces of the children circled her, twisted, happy, engaging in their macabre game, daring her to join. They moved with an unnatural grace, their eyes flickering like the shadows themselves, filled with a dark enchantment that threatened to snuff out her resolve. She needed time, a moment to gather herself. The air felt heavy, pushing in around her, every breath tasted of dread. The ground continued to shift beneath her feet, and with each heartbeat, the fissure inched wider as if the forest was gloating at her indecision. Join us, the phrase cackled through the wind, an echoing taunt that made her skin crawl. Her mind raced through options as panic clawed at the edges of her sanity. Could she strike a deal with the darkness? Rip Lily from its grasp even if it meant stepping into that abyss? Before she could gather her thoughts, the roots below stirred, animated by a life of their own, reaching for her ankle like vines of despair. Am I losing everything? The question spiraled through her mind, relentless and gnawing. She couldn't surrender. Not yet. We'll find a way, I swear it. Amy shouted, gripping her heart as another pulse of energy erupted from the depths of the chasm. The rift quaked, and she felt the world buckle as if it were about to implode. She had to move now. Summoning the last vestiges of her strength, she lunged forward. Hold on, sweetheart. A whirlwind of darkness churned, pulling at her, urging her to step down into nothing. But she had to fight. Grasping at the ledge of the chasm, she swung herself towards it, reaching out desperately for her daughter who was grasping at the air, fingers slipping away. Just as she was about to stabilize herself, a stunning light burst through the trees with a fierce brilliance, illuminating the forest in ghostly shimmer. The children halted, their expressions twisting in confusion and fear. For the briefest moment, even the sinister figure of the woman faltered, the impenetrable shadows behind her backing away. Lily. Come to me. With renewed vigor, Amy stretched her arm out, willing her voice to reach through the haze. Before her eyes, she caught a glimpse of Lily's terrified face. Her small body dangled over the edge of the chasm, suspended between the darkness and her mother's desperate embrace. But the light flickered and waned, retreating into the vast blackness of the trees once more. With a horrifying crack, the earth beneath Amy splintered. As she fought to regain her balance, she glimpsed something emerge from the shadows, pale hands reaching toward Lily, pleading, beckoning. What were they? Creatures of despair. As dread crept back with the loss of light, Amy's heart raced wildly. She felt the forest tighten its grip, and with a lurch, Lily slipped another inch closer to the dark maw. Time thudded heavy in her ears. Then, a chilling realization hit her like a whip. Maybe the children had not just been mindless shadows, they were caught too, bound by desperation themselves. They, too, were begging to escape whatever curse had woven them into this nightmare. See what you've become. Amy screamed at the woman, but her fury felt shallow against the encroaching horror. The laughter returned, rising like a storm, wild and frenzied, piercing through the panic swallowing her whole. "Welcome to the family," echoed that treachery. In that moment of panic, the earth shook again, and Amy fought to pull Lily back from the brink of darkness. The chasm trembled with insatiable hunger. "Love is irrelevant here," the woman shrieked again, the shadows dancing like flames around her. In that split second, a decision crystallized in Amy's mind: take one final leap toward the light, or risk losing Lily to the abyss forever. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat, steeling herself against the chaos. Plunge forward, towards the glow, or flee into the night, abandoning all hope. The forest anticipated her choice, ancient and ruthless. And as the darkness roared, Amy prepared to leap into the unknown, wondering if she would find the strength to bring her daughter back against the forest's sinister will or be consumed by it. Would love conquer the darkness, or would despair forever consume them both? Amy launched herself forward, propelled by an instinct deeper than fear. The world blurred, churning as her feet skidded across the ledge. For a heartbeat, she felt weightless, suspended in the void between the terror behind her and the glow ahead. "Lily!" The scream broke from her lips, raw and desperate, echoing through the void. Time fractured as she reached out, fingers stretching toward her daughter, who dangled like a delicate ornament on a fraying thread. In that moment, the air crackled with energy. The chasm roared, and the light surged back, flooding the surroundings in a blinding blaze. But the laughter did not fade. It rose, a cacophony of chaos, wrapping around her throat, squeezing tighter. "Mommy!" The cry from Lily was a dagger of despair, twisting in Amy's gut. The child's face was twisted in sheer terror, eyes wide and bewildered, caught between two worlds, hers and the one lurking just below. The woman loomed closer, shadows swirling around her like a cloak of dread. "Come, little one. The family awaits," she crooned, her voice silky smooth yet venomous. The dark hands beneath the ledge reached for Lily, pleading. The children followed suit, their eyes now pools of bottomless longing. "No. You don't want this," Amy shouted, her heart racing as she fought to stabilize her footing. She couldn't let the darkness consume her, or her daughter. Yet, the pull of despair was relentless. The very air around her felt charged, threading through her body like lightning. As she strained against the void, it was as if the world had conspired to haunt her. Vines lashed out, clawing at her legs, attempting to drag her back into the abyss. "Give in to the longing, Amy," the woman whispered, honey dripping from her words. "We're all alone until we join the family." "Shut up!" Amy screamed, desperation fueling her defiance. She was terrified, but she needed to think clearly. She had to remember who she was, who Lily was. With a swift motion, she pulled herself closer, her arms stretched further, fingers tingling with adrenaline. "Lily, grab my hand. Please." But it was too late, the ground cracked again with a deafening roar. A fissure deeper than the first opened with a growl, chanting its malevolent song. Among the shadows, she sensed something more, a pulse of anguish, an echo of forgotten lives swirling in the dark, bound together by the chasm's insatiable hunger. "Mommy! I can't hold on." Torn between the light and dark, Lily's fingers trembled, slipping further. The ground beneath them throbbed, anxious and alive, as if anticipating the end. "No! No! No!" Panic surged through Amy, an instinctual fight igniting. She could not fail her baby now. Her resolve hardened as the darkness hissed, another round of taunting laughter vibrating through the air. As if sensing her fervor, the childlike figures turned, their noggins tilted in unsettling synchronization. What were they waiting for? She realized, with chilling clarity, they were not here by choice. They were remnants trapped in despair. Lily. She felt the power surge within her, calling upon every ounce of love and rage. "Fight, my sweet. Fight against it. With a primal scream, she drew from her depths, roaring against the onslaught. The light flared once more, and for a brief moment, clarity washed over her. If she could just snatch Lily from the grips of darkness, perhaps they could escape together, perhaps they could shatter the grip of the wretched family below, but as her fingers grazed Lily's, the abyss howled louder, pulling back with malicious intent. The shadows clung to Amy, wrapping tighter, ensnaring her in their web of despair. "Embrace the dark, and you will have your child," the woman whispered, her voice like silk laced with poison. Terror coursed through Amy. What if it was true? Just as she thought she had no other choice, a piercing scream materialized through the chaos. It was not her own, it was something else echoing through the trees, raw and otherworldly. "Help us!" The ground shifted, and with each tremor, the darkness roared louder. Could she save Lily without succumbing to the darkness? Time seemed to stand still, and in those desperate seconds, Amy stared into her daughter's terrified eyes. Would the pull of the forest tear them apart, or would they find a way to break free? A choice beckoned, sharp and razor-edged. One that could tear their lives apart or unite them forever. And just as she teetered on the brink, she felt the shadows pull at her again. Would she give in? Would she plunge them into the very depths they fought against, or leap toward the light? The ground rumbled ominously as she braced for what came next. The rumble beneath her feet was no mere shake, it was a heartbeat, thrumming with dark purpose. Amy's fingers were almost entwined with Lily's, but the darkness waged war against her strength. The split in the ground widened, revealing a churning black mist that roiled like boiling tar, beckoning them into its depths. The fanged mouths formed in that shadow, whispering promises of release and belonging, but Amy pressed on. "I won't let you go." Desperation clawed at her throat. She pushed against the suffocating darkness, her heart racing, drowning out the laughter that taunted her sanity. Lily's terrified gaze held her, and in those fleeting seconds, Amy understood the weight of her choice. "You have to fight," she shouted, the command laced with fierce love. But what if that mere emotion could withstand the horrors below? The shadowy form leaned closer, the sinister woman now an ethereal void, words dripping with malice. "They have waited so long, Amy. Join us, and your child shall know peace. Go to hell." Amy snarled, feeling the darkness pulse like an eager predator. A flicker of light sparked in her core, a stubborn ember ignited by maternal instinct. With a guttural roar, she leaned further, bridging the gap, heart pounding against her ribs. Could she really pull her daughter from the brink? As the shadows lunged, grabbing at her ankles, Amy felt the familiar weight of despair trying to creep in. She looked at Lily again, her sweet girl trembling, just moments from slipping away completely. "Please, Mommy." Came another plea, as if the world itself had implored her. "Just hold on. I'm coming." In that moment, she could see the truth in the darkness, the faces of the children trapped below, eyes wide with longing and sorrow. Would they come to rescue? The shadows recoiled for a heartbeat, as if sensing her resolve. But then they surged, an untamed tide, thrumming with an insatiable need for the lost souls. "Join us," they hissed in unison, the voices blending together in a sick symphony. "Together, we are family." "Not my family," Amy cried out, her voice barely making it past the laughter that howled like 1,000 lost spirits. Just then, the ground beneath her buckled. A new fissure formed, jagged and clinging with roots that pulsed as if alive. It was a sentient nightmare, tempting her, wrapping around her like a lover's embrace. This was desperation, and Amy could almost see it urging her to give in. Lily slipped again, her tiny fingers just a breath away. "Mommy. I can't. I can't." "No. You can." With newfound determination, she dove forward, stretching her hand. It was a gamble. The fabric of existence seemed to thin around her, and still, she pushed on. Just then, an unnatural wind howled, pulling at their hair, wrapping around them. It felt like the cries and moans of the lost, swirling chaos as Amy felt herself pulled closer to the edge. Her heart hammered, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She could sense the malicious joy from the shadows, the way they escalated their grip. Would her defiance fuel the darkness? A sudden snarl erupted from the void. Out of the mist, figures emerged. First one, then several. Their faces were contorted masks of pain and longing, the lost children, now more than mere shadows. They moved closer, forming a barrier, as if to take Lily the moment Amy faltered. "Don't you dare!" Amy shouted, fighting against panic. She felt the weight of heritage, a mother's love against the void. Terror surged. As those twisted figures rushed at Lily, Amy realized she couldn't do this alone. She needed a strategy, a plan to steal her daughter away from the jaws of the abyss. But just as hope flickered, a decision lurked in the shadows. In the darkness around her and Lily, who would they become? What would they have to sacrifice to escape the ever-growing family waiting in the dark? The darkness pulsed, a heartbeat akin to her own. In that moment, Amy realized, if they fought their way back, what price would it demand of them? And then, from the depths emerged a show of light, a glimmer of hope, yet born of despair. What shape would their escape take? Amy felt the world around her begin to dissolve like sugar in rain, shadows threatening to swallow her whole. The whispers grew louder, forming a chorus that clawed at her sanity. "Join us," they lured, sweet and sickly, wrapping around her vulnerabilities like a warm blanket. Deep in her heart, a flicker of resolve ignited amid the chaos. "No." Her voice rang out, clear and unwavering in the cold night. "I want to do it." With every ounce of strength, she leaned closer to Lily, who hung precariously over the chasm. "Mommy, help." The desperation in her daughter's voice struck Amy like a thunderbolt, tearing through the darkness that sought to consume them. "I'm right here," she shouted, her hands reaching, longing to close the distance. But the ground shuddered beneath her, that regular heartbeat of the forest spurring its hunger. The phantom children laughed, their eyes glowing with malevolence. "Mommy! You can't win. Join us." The twisted echo of their voices made the very air vibrate, a cacophony of lost innocence. Amy's heart raced, but in that maelstrom, she spotted something, an old gnarled tree on the edge of the clearing, its roots curling tightly around the earth. "Lily!" she yelled, mind racing. "If I can pull down that tree, maybe it will create a bridge." "Mommy, be careful." Lily's voice trembled. "Just hold on to me." With determination coursing through her, Amy turned to the dim glow of the tree, shrouded in shadows but steadfast against the tempest. She sprinted toward it as darkness coiled at her feet, trying to pull her down. With every blade of grass that snagged on her ankles, she felt the battle of her choice tearing at her soul. "Let her go." Amy's scream echoed against the moonlit backdrop of the woods, challenging the shadows to retaliate. As she reached the tree, she wrapped her arms around its thick trunk, heaving with sheer force. The splintering sounds mixed with the eerie laughter. The ground trembled again beneath her, roots writhed like serpents, resisting her grip like a wild beast. In a raw surge of instinct, Amy released her fear, pouring everything into that moment, the love for Lily, the memory of their home, of laughter and light that seemed almost foreign now. She yanked with desperation, muscles straining. Suddenly, the tree groaned, a deep echo that cascaded through the darkness. With one final push, it cracked, roots tearing free from their grasp of the earth, and tumbled forward with a thunderous roar. "Mommy, hurry!" Lily cried, wide-eyed with terror and trust. The tree fell with a crash that sent shockwaves through the clearing. Amy seized the opportunity, dashing back toward her daughter, the path to freedom now visible before them. The laughter turned to screams, an angry tide rising against their effort. "Run, Lily! Now!" With renewed desperation, Amy pleaded, pulling Lily away from the voracious shadows. The fissure shook violently as the forest roared in protest. They sprinted, dodging branches that reached out like ghostly hands, aiming to pull them back into the dark. Light flooded their surroundings as they broke through the branches, breaking free from the overpowering grip of darkness. "Mommy!" Lily gasped, her face aglow with fear and exhilaration, dusted by moonlight. "Just keep going." They charged forward, heartbeats racing in synchrony, the bright world reflecting warmth long forgotten. The path felt endless, the oppressive laughter of the forest stripped away, replaced by the chirp of crickets and the rustle of leaves, a comforting reality that welcomed them back. But the shadows did not relent. Behind them, a thundering howl erupted from the depths of the woods as they climbed over the final fallen roots of the tree. It was a noise of rage, not one of defeat. Finally, the flicker of lights ahead sparkled against the darkness. The town was close, and with an intense grasp of courage, Amy urged Lily forward, expecting the shadows to reach out one last time. But as they ran, Amy felt something shift. The darkness hesitated, the ghastly voices fell silent. The cursed feral children did not pursue, their hold weakened by the symbolic defiance that now hung between the child and her mother. "You can't escape," became a whispering threat swallowed by the night. They burst into the clearing at the edge of the woods, breathless yet alive. Amy felt hot tears stream down her cheeks, a mixture of relief and lingering fear. "We did it," she whispered, pulling Lily into a fierce hug. "Are they gone?" Lily's small voice trembled against her. The woods loomed ominously behind them, but Amy brought her hands to Lily's cheeks, forcing her to meet her gaze. "They're bound to the darkness. But we found our way back to the light." The urgent thudding of her heart echoed in her ears, but a stillness settled over them, a sense of victory looming over the horizon. Together they turned their back on the forest, stepping into the town with new hope filling their hearts. As they reached the safety of their home, sunlight began peeking through the trees, cutting through the remnants of fear lingering in the air. "I love you, Lily," Amy said, kissing her forehead, squeezing her tightly. "I love you too, Mommy. Can we never go back?" "Never," Amy promised, pouring her heart into every word. "Not after what we faced." And as the whispers of the dark began to fade into the silence of the Appalachian morning, Amy finally felt the weight of their nightmares lifting, leaving behind a mere echo of what could have been a haunting reminder that love pulls us through even the darkest woods. In the end, they emerged not just as survivors but as warriors, resolute against the shadows that haunted their lives. The forest had taken, but in the sacred bond of love, they had reclaimed what was rightfully theirs. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to catch every twist and turn of these exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep our content alive. Don't wait even one more second, flood the comments with your reactions, your theories about Lily and Amy, and let us keep the discussion going. And if you care about your friends, instantly share this video with at least 5 of them who need to see this conclusion. Join the family that fights together, or risk losing the light forever.